Hey there, I'm Jane Sawyer, and this is Jane Sawyer Makes a Paper Mache Pumpkin. A paper mache pumpkin is a great beginner-friendly project if you want to get started sculpting with paper mache. Today I'm going to walk you through step-by-step how to make a pumpkin. To get started, you're going to need a shopping bag. I'm using this old plastic shopping bag I have. If plastic shopping bags have been phased out where you live, you can use one of these reusable shopping bags. They'll work just fine. For this first part, you're also going to need something to stuff your bag with. This can be anything, stuffing from an old pillow, wads of paper. I'm going to use this plastic packaging that came with some pillows I ordered, but any sort of voluminous garbage that you can crunch up will work. You're also going to want some twine and some masking tape for this first step. Later on, you're going to need your paper mache supplies and arts and crafts materials. I have a really in-depth video that goes exactly into how I paper mache my projects. I'm super proud of that video and it's been really popular, so I'd highly recommend you check that out before you attempt this project. I'll leave a link to it in the description. Okay, to get started, we're first gonna need to stuff our bag with whatever filling materials you've got. So a quick tip here is you don't want to just crunch up your stuffing material because you're going to get lumpities and bumpities all over the edges. What you want to kind of do is crunch the middle. You want to crunch the middle up to give you volume, but then kind of roll it so that the outside stays smooth. So I have one bag like this. I'm going to pack it into my plastic bag so you can see the smooth edge is facing the outside. And then I'm going to do the same thing with this other bag I have. Scrunching it up to give me more volume, but then rolling it into the flat plastic to give me some smoother sides. And then I'm going to pack that into my bag and I'm going to tie the top really well. I want to try to take out any extra air I have in my bag because I want the sides to be pretty firm for when I put on my paper mache. Just gonna do an overhand knot to tie my bag closed. If you have trouble doing an overhand knot, you could use a rubber band or just wrap the end in masking tape. But here I have my little bag of garbage. Now I want to cut 8 pieces of twine that can wrap fully around my pumpkin with some excess. So we're going to cut 8 pieces. If you don't have twine, you can use yarn. Any kind of string you have lying around will work. All right, so we have 8 pieces of twine here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're going to roughly find the middle. And I'm just going to do an overhand knot to get a knot in the middle of all of these strings. So there we go, just like that. So now I'm going to spread these strings out in a starburst pattern. If you're having trouble keeping the strings from flying all around, just use a piece of masking tape to stick the knot to the table. And you know what? My strings are being so finicky, I'm going to just tape them all down to the table. So now we're going to take our pumpkin and we're going to put it on top of the knot in the middle of our string starburst. From here, we're going to take opposite strings and tie them into a knot on top of our pumpkin. So I'm going to start here and I'm going to grab the string that's opposite. I'm just going to do right over left and through, tighten it down, and then left, over right, and through, and tighten it down again. So now I'm gonna go about 90 degrees from those two, pick 2 more opposite strings, and repeat that again. So it's right string over left and through. Tighten this down. Then left string over right and through, tighten it down. And we're gonna keep doing this until all of the strings have been tied on top of the pumpkin. It doesn't really matter what side of this center knot you tie the strings on. I tend to mix it up a little bit just to distribute that evenly. So now, if you want, you can go trim all of these little strings off, but I just like to stand them up and then tape them into the bag end, and this will all become the stem of my pumpkin. I'm just gonna put some masking tape on here. Now this is a little bit skinny to be the stem on its own, so I'm gonna fold this back down onto itself to beef it up a little bit. And then I'm gonna continue wrapping. So there's gonna be a trestle process moment, but she's looking pretty ugly right now. The plastic bag pumpkin is ready to go. We're gonna cover it in some paper mache. And I wanna show you a couple other methods before we move on, just in case you have trouble with tying the knots. So for this method, I'm gonna use a paper bag, a couple different sizes of masking tape, my stuffing material, which is gonna be just some packing paper I have, and some aluminum kitchen foil. To soften up my bag a little bit, I'm going to crunch it up and uncrunch it a few times. This just makes it a little softer, and so the sharp creases in the bag aren't as visible. Right, so now where I'm going to stuff my paper bag, and again, I want to keep the stuffing pretty firm. I'm going to use this packing paper I have saved. I hoard this stuff and I use it for paper mache and all kinds of things. So I'm just going to wad that up and stuff it into my bag. Again, to keep your project from being too lumpy, you're going to want to scrunch it up and then roll it into the flats. So we're going to scrunch to give us volume, and then wrap in flatter paper to keep it smooth. So you can see there's like a little bit of scrunchy, bumpy happening on the sides, but not too bad. So I'm gonna just do that a whole bunch until I've got this paper bag stuffed pretty full. I also don't like how these little corners stick out, so I'm gonna kind of tuck them in and tape those down as well. I'm going to divide my segments with some masking tape. So I'm gonna start up here, and I'm just gonna push a groove in and stick that down really hard. So as I'm taping, I'm just shoving my thumb in to bend the interior paper. So you can see now I have a lot of wrinkles in here, and that's not going to be very nice to try to paper mache over. So what I'm going to do is smooth over this area with bits of masking tape. So I'm going to show you one more segment here. Just kind of using the tape to smooth this out and fill in these like divots here that came from crunching the paper. This is going to be a lot easier to paper mache over. So I'm going to finish taping this pumpkin, and then I'll come back and show you how I make a stem. All right, so this pumpkin is all covered in tape, and now I want to give it a nice curly stem. So I'm just going to take some aluminum kitchen foil. We're going to scrunch that up. And I'm going to use my fingers to form it into a nice stem. And the nice thing about using aluminum foil for this is you can really make it curl and bend any way you want. And then I'm just gonna pinch the bottom to flare it out a little bit. And I'm gonna tape that on top of my pumpkin. Right, now this one's all ready to go and be covered in paper mache. I'm gonna show you one more method. This technique is gonna be great for little tiny mini pumpkins. So for the last one I'm gonna show you here, we're gonna use this plastic storage bag, some rubber bands, scissors, a bit of tape. This is just electrical tape I get from the dollar store. You don't need this. You could use Scotch tape or cello tape or packing tape, anything you have that sticks to plastic really well. And then you'll need some polyester fiber fill. You can, of course, buy this new. You can also take apart an old pillow or sacrifice an old stuffy to the cause, whatever you'd like. So first step here is we're gonna cut the side of the bag off. And then we're gonna tape up this edge. So I'm just gonna lay out a strip of tape, curl that under and stick it to the table. Set the bag on top like this. Set this off. And then go ahead and fold this over. And then trim this off. And then just to reinforce this, I'm gonna put a few little tabs of tape along the length here. Right, and then we'll fold these over like so. It's a bit short. So this is gonna be our pumpkin. I'm gonna cut one end off of the bag here. Then I'm going to stuff the bag. Now I'm going to use a rubber band to close the top of this bag. I can even use the loops of the rubber band and kind of move them up as I go to make this into the stem of my pumpkin. I think this guy should have a short stem, so I'm going to cut off the excess here. Okay, now I don't like how these corners are sticking out, so I'm just going to fold them in and tape these down. So we're going to fold these corners in and tape them together. All right, so now we're gonna use some more rubber bands to divide the segments of our pumpkin. So for the ones I have, I'm gonna have to wrap them a couple times to get them to compress that stuffing. But I'm going to try to make sure that rubber band sits on top of itself when it comes back around. So I don't want this gap here. I'm gonna set it on top of itself. And then I'm gonna go about a third of the way here across. I'm gonna go around. And then I'm gonna do one rubber band here. Just gonna reposition these rubber bands a little bit. I don't love the way they're sitting on the bottom. And now this one is also ready to get covered in paper mache. All right, so now it's time to cover these 3 balls of garbage in paper mache. I have a dedicated video that breaks down my paper mache technique. I really recommend you check that out if you haven't done paper mache in a while, or maybe you're looking for less messy workflow options. It breaks down the best paper to use, the best glue, how to apply the paper layers, all that good stuff. I'll leave a link in the description, but here are some pumpkin-specific paper mache tips. I had a bit of trouble getting the paper to stick to the plastic bag I used for this little pumpkin. So I ripped up some paper towel, saturated that in my glue water mix, and applied that as my first layer. I let that dry really well, and then I was able to go back and apply my normal paper layers as usual. I also wanted to show you this. I have a spot in the side of this pumpkin I don't really like. It's kind of lumpy and bumpy, so I took some thicker paper. This is like a paper grocery bag. It's a bit thicker than the paper I normally use, and I kind of folded it into this segmented shape. The front is smooth, but the back is crumpled up to create a bit of volume. Now I can tape this onto that ugly area and apply a few layers of paper mache on top. If you're going to be cutting into your pumpkin later, you should do about 5 layers of paper mache so it's nice and sturdy. If you're going to leave the stuffing inside your pumpkin and just decorate it, you can probably get away with about 3 layers of paper mache. You can leave your pumpkins to dry in a warm, dry place with good airflow. All right, so these 3 pumpkins are dry and they are ready for carving, painting, decorating, whatever you want to do. I'm going to be turning this one into a jack-o'-lantern, this one into a basket, and this one is going to be a cute little surprise project. So make sure you're subscribed if you want to see those. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I reply to almost every comment I get on this channel, and I'm always happy to help out my viewers. Give this video a like if you think I did a good job. Not only do likes make me feel all warm and fuzzy, they help other people to find this video. Follow me on the socials, go make some paper mache pumpkins, and I'll see you on the next one.